Everyone wants a safe and secure tiny house. Tiny house vehicles are subject to extreme conditions on the road. The risk is that if a tiny house vehicle is built like you build a tiny house on foundation, it may break apart during transport. What we're going to cover today are 5 points. What the safety problems are with how tiny houses are being attached to their trailers currently. Number 2, the consequences of a tiny house fail on our roadways. Number 3, we're going to talk about why we're taken to calling them tiny house vehicles. Number 4, we're going to talk about the unified construction method, how it conceives of the tiny house as a whole, not just a traditional house that's plonked down on a trailer. And number 5, we're going to tell you how to get that knowledge. This tiny house is going to experience a 10-hour earthquake because it's going on a 10-hour journey to its new owners. Think of any trailer you've ever seen going down the road. It vibrates a lot, it jiggles in every direction. Well, the same vibrations are happening on a house, only it's 4 tons worth of weight vibrating too. We need to understand all the forces that are acting on any tiny house at any time while it's traveling, because that's the time when it's experiencing the greatest and most severe forces. There are 4 forces. There is the hurricane force at the front, and a nearly equal suction force that wants to pull this tiny house wall off the back. The upward lifting force that wants to lift this roof off of the walls of your tiny house. And the 4th force that's going to be acting on your tiny house is this vibrating force that's going to want to rock and roll and shake every attachment point of your tiny house from the floor all the way up to the roof. And that's got to be secure. A lot of people, builders, will use wood screw and go right into the steel. This is an extraordinarily inadequate way of securing a tiny house in a trailer. Second one would be where they weld a bit of steel, threaded rod, so that it sticks up like that, and then basically you're dependent on the size of that washer to secure just the bottom plate to your tiny house trailer. There's a 3-fold danger to building a weak structure. For the tiny house owner, you don't want your structure to be broken or weakened in any way during transport. For everyone else on the road, they are your responsibility too. If your tiny house fails, you put them in danger. And the last group we want to protect is all of the people in the tiny house movement, because if you have a tiny house fail on the road, it will for sure be a headline. Don't be that person. People mistakenly believe that they can build a tiny house on wheels the same way they build a tiny house on foundation. Following the Building Code of Australia will not make a safe tiny house vehicle. We all call them tiny houses, but don't be misled, they're vehicles. And don't make the mistake of thinking that I'm just going from A to B a short distance so I don't have to make it roadworthy. You do have to make it roadworthy. It's a tiny house vehicle, not just a tiny house. So now that you have an understanding of the forces that are acting on your tiny house, what do you do now? How do you make sure that that tiny house stays stuck together? Well, we've developed a unified construction method. It's got 4 elements. 3 of them have to do with strength. 1 of them has to do with livability. This is what they are. The first one is these floor joist tie downs. We have a horizontal bolting system that holds that floor joist down, the strongest way to attach a tiny house in a trailer. The second element is the stud wall tie downs. Similar idea, horizontal bolting system. Here is those horizontal bolting points, here and here, 8 all up for the tiny house. The third element has to do with the bracing ply. This piece of plywood, bracing ply, travels below the floor all the way up to the roof structure. So the 4th element of the unified construction method really has to do with livability. And look, the problem is that people want to live in their tiny house year-round, and yet if in the summertime you let the steel get hot on your roofing and you let that heat come into your tiny house, it will not be livable for a few months in the year. It also incorporates a thermal barrier, a radiant barrier that will keep the inside of your ceiling cool during summertime. And that's an important thing when you're trying to live and sleep right up close to that roof, as many people try and do. You're able to stay cool in the summertime, which is exactly what you want to have a year-round livable tiny house. It's not just about how the trailer is made, it's how the house and the trailer are planned together and how each fastening works together to create a vibration resilient vehicle that's safe to tow and comfortable to live in. So now you have the bare bones, the essential aspect of what the unified construction method is, why it's a good idea, and how it works. So how do you get that knowledge? Well, you come along to a workshop. Whether you're a DIYer or a professional builder, we want you to have and be using this information. This is a patented method, my patented method, but we want to put it out there. DIYers get it for free, and commercial builders, you can use it too for a small licensing fee. Let's build tiny houses that are safe, affordable, and livable year-round. Liberate yourself.